Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer: this recording is not intended to be utilized as medical advice or a medical diagnosis. If you think you're in need of medical attention or treatment, please seek it immediately. This recording will also contain sensitive subjects such as binging and purging, weight, and depression. Please listen at your own discretion and do what you think is best for you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I have a very, very special guest. This is Megan Tong, and she's special, one, because she's amazing with money and coaches people in their relationship with money, but she's also my coach, and we've worked together on my relationship with money, and she changed my life in so many ways. And I wanted to bring her on because I know people with bulimia tend to struggle with money as well in different ways, but they tend to have sometimes issues with money. I obviously had issues with money and sometimes still do, but I wanted to bring Megan on to talk about it. So Megan, welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yeah. So firstly, give us a little background on how you came to be a money coach, like what brought you to this place.
Yeah, totally. So what I do in my coaching is I help people make money doing what they love, and then I help them take that money and create a rich life for themselves. And how I got to this place is that I went to school to be a CPA, so I'm a trained accountant. And I did that for a little while. The cubicle life definitely wasn't for me. And then I eventually left that profession and started my own Australian style meat pie business. And while I was growing my meat pie business with my partner, we grew it to like 3 locations, $1 million in revenue. We eventually sold it in 2018. And all the while, I always had it in my mind that I really wanted to create financial freedom for myself. So that was a priority for myself from the get-go, almost in my career. I don't know if it's because as soon as I saw a cubicle, I was like, oh gosh, I got to plan my escape, or I don't know what it was, but I always had it in my mind that I wanted to create financial freedom for myself. So all the while, I was also building a portfolio of real estate with my then boyfriend, but now husband. And we built up our portfolio of real estate. And by the time I sold Kanga, the Australian style meat pie restaurant, we had achieved financial freedom, which means that I could really do anything that I wanted and really tap into what was my passion. And I remember that I loved money. That was the reason that I became an accountant in the first place. I loved money. I loved talking about money. I loved helping people with money. And that's when I sort of got on a path to helping people with their money. The most obvious thing to do was to do personal financial planning. And that's what I started doing. I started helping other financial planners and also taking on some of my own clients. And as part of that, I also started doing some money coaching, which is slightly different than financial planning. Money coaching is more about helping people change their behaviors and their attitudes around money. So the best way to kind of differentiate that is financial planning is a planning exercise. Money coaching is more for the person who's they're making money, but they don't know where any of it goes. Maybe they have, even though I saw people who were making, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and they had massive credit card debt. No, I don't want to say massive credit card debt, maybe $100,000 of credit card debt. And they just really weren't staying afloat despite having really strong incomes. So I really, really loved working with the money coaching clients on the behaviors and the thoughts and stuff like that. And at the same time, I was realizing that I was giving my money coaching clients these very, very specific ways of doing things, kind of the how of things. It was almost like giving somebody a very specific diet. Okay, we're going to eat this at 9, we're going to eat this at 12. So I would give them very specific spreadsheets and ways of setting up their bank accounts and things like that. And I realized that while I was doing this. And I got those from other money coaches, but I was like, I don't even use these spreadsheets. I don't even have this way of setting up these bank accounts. I don't have 7 different bank accounts. I have like 2 bank accounts. And so it was just really interesting because I was giving people like this exact prescription that I didn't even use. And yet I was wealthy. And so that's when I kind of started tapping into like really realizing that, oh no, it isn't actually the specific spreadsheet or bank account setup. It's actually how people think about money. Like I would talk to so many of my wealthy friends and they all had slightly different ways of managing money. But what I noticed that they had in common was how they relate to money and how they relate to themselves. That was the commonality. That was the common factor. And that's when I really got into like more the mindset aspect of things.
Like, can I ask, like you just answered so many questions that I had for you. So like that was your introduction was so informative. So thank you. But can I ask like what in the common for people who are wealthier and that you were talking to, what was the common way that they were relating to money that helped them? What do you think was like the most positive mindset they had?
Well, that's a really interesting question. There's a few different aspects of things. One thing I think is that they had a real like future outlook on things. So they had no problems like investing for their future. But another thing is that they had a positive attitude towards money. Yeah. Like they liked money. They felt that money was helpful in their lives. I don't want to say like all I thought about was money. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, but it was important to them in their lives, right? Just like for some people, like health is really important as it should be, right? For them, money was important. So they would actually pay attention to it. They would become educated in it. You can imagine like all the different actions that you take when you have a positive attitude towards something versus like, ew, I hate that, or like, I'm not good at that and like maybe never will be, or oh, money was always just like is the source of so much pain and suffering, which so a lot of people like through the experiences that they've had growing up, they just have so many negative feelings associated with the circumstance, with the fact that is money, right? Money is not good or bad or evil or good or anything like that. It is just a circumstance, like a very neutral circumstance. So that is like really the main difference. Just like having like maybe like either a positive or a neutral feeling towards it versus like having lots of emotional, like negative emotional, like negative feelings around it.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Because one thing I wanted to ask you about while you were talking is like people, because you said, I always loved money and earlier. And I was like, oh, that is going to be a triggering statement to a lot of people. Because even I grew up, as you know, like money's bad. The pursuit of wealth is bad. Like thinking about money or caring about money too much is bad. And then also equally on the flip side, people that are struggling financially, or maybe they have a lot of wealth, feel bad about it, right? Or they have tons of shame about how they spend money. And so that can either kind of make them unconsciously avoid money opportunities or just unconsciously avoid looking at their money in general and avoiding it and hoping that it all just solves itself. Like either they make more money or just like it resolves somehow.
Yes, totally. Yes. So many people take the action of avoiding money. Like, and when like, sometimes like you don't even know what you're thinking, but when you look at what you're doing, that can be like your biggest into your money mindset, right? What are you actually doing when you actually observe yourself from like a fly on the wall or like an outside person like looking at you? Sometimes that is the in. Like you, like most people's money thoughts are not as at the surface as when I say like, oh, money's evil. Most people don't think to themselves, money is evil. No. They just avoid it.
Right? They just unconsciously breeze past it.
Yes, exactly. But like when, you know, and it takes some like inquiring and looking into like what they're thinking and feeling to really uncover things. But, you know, yeah, it's really interesting because most people don't even realize like the negative feelings and associations they have with money. But maybe like a statement like, I love money, maybe that will help bring up some of those that some people don't even know are lurking there.
Well, we've done a lot of work together on money. And even when you said that, I had an immediate, like, it was mild, it's gotten much better. It was like a mild cringe of like, oh, I don't like it, it's bad. And I know that that's not true, because like money is actually very helpful for our lives and for helping other people. And it's a good thing to have and to be in management of, but it's crazy the unconscious beliefs that drive your behaviors towards money. And I think the biggest thing, obviously you helped me with so many things with like, firstly, understanding where my money was going, because I was one of those people that was like, I'm making more money, where is it going? And like, I don't get it. But then also like, I had so many unconscious beliefs about money and shame around money, and that drove my spending behavior as well, and how I dealt with the money that I had, that sort of stuff. So when you work with people, I guess, that have a bunch of unconscious beliefs about money, maybe a lot of shame around money or their money situation, where do you start? What do you do?
Yeah, it really just depends on where they're starting, I guess. I coach people one-on-one. We coach together one-on-one. So it depends on where they're starting. Sometimes where we generally start is differentiating between a circumstance and a thought, which I know you do with your clients a lot too, right? Like a lot of times human beings, we confound the circumstance with the thought about it, with the story. So like people will come and be like, oh, I have this debt and it's like so big, and like it's just massive, and I don't know if I kind of feel like I'm drowning, and like just like even literally like the words, it's so big, it's massive, that is the story, that is a thought. So generally we do start there, right? There is the debt, and no matter, and like I even said that at the beginning, right? So if you're looking at massive debt, right? That's just, and that is like, so it's so easy to go into the story around it. That really is just the story. So the first step is differentiating between the circumstance that is like, what is the debt? Is it $15,000 of credit card debt? And then picking that apart from like all of the things that the person is telling themselves about it. A lot of times it's not just like, oh, it's massive and it's like insurmountable. Sometimes, as you said, it's thoughts about themselves. Like I have no self-control because I have credit card debt, and only people who have no self-control have credit card debt, right? So a lot of times it's the thoughts about themselves as well, that we just, we take those apart from the circumstance that is the exact amount of debt. There is, and this might be even mind-blowing for some people, is that there is nothing bad about debt. There is nothing bad.
I'm glad that you said
about
that.
Credit card debt, and there is nothing bad about any debt. There's nothing inherently bad about it. There's nothing.
Again, why is there nothing bad about credit card debt or any debt? So I know everyone is like, error, something's wrong.
Right? Yes. Like it is so villainized. And the fact of the matter is that like all of that is a story. It is not the fact, like credit card debt is a circumstance. It is a fact in some people's lives. And like, I also don't want to say like, don't worry about your credit card debt. Don't worry about getting rid of it or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying it doesn't have to have all of these negative associations, and whatever created the credit card debt, you can still always choose to have your own back. And it is not necessary or even helpful to beat yourself up about it. And I think like that is something that does also come with a lot of people who have bulimia, is that they're very hard on themselves.
Yeah, extremely. And especially with bulimia, like they spend a lot of money on binging and purging, right? So like the binge food. And even I have a lot of clients who they're so upset about the amount of money that I spend or that they spend on that food. And it's like, stop shaming yourself. You're allowed to spend money on what you want to spend money on. And then I think it's more about, like you said, looking at the behaviors and thinking, this is neither bad nor good. There's no morality attached to it, but do you want to keep on spending the way you're spending? I think that you helped me with that a lot of like, at our first coaching call ever, I'm pretty sure you just had me look at my money, right? And I was like, I don't want to do this. You know, it was so emotional. I just was like, oh, very uncomfortable. And yet just offering me that clarity. And then you phrased it in such a neutral way, like, this is the number. This is what actually is. Because I had all these thoughts and just understanding the actual situation, looking at it, and then going over. And like you said, having your own back about your purchasing decisions, that was life-changing for me. Because like I still have debt, but I have my own back about it and working towards what I want to do with my money in the future. That makes a world of difference.
Yes. So good. I love that actually you brought that up, like what we did in our first session. I kind of forgot about that. Yes, that is what we do. I was saying, like, we look at what is right now, where are we right now, and just removing the morality from that and any shame or guilt or anything like that. I mean, that doesn't necessarily happen in like 1 hour.
No.
It's a journey, right? And it's changing the way we think about things, because sometimes we think that beating ourselves up about something is the way to change. Mm-hmm. And what we discover in life coaching is that there is a way better way that feels a lot better and that is so much more effective. And that is the opposite of beating yourself up.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like working towards what do you want, right? And coming from positive reinforcement and understanding like, hey, these things are leading to these results. What else do you want to do? And then working towards doing those things. And if you aren't doing those things, understanding why you're not doing those things and pushing forward.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what do you do like with people and money? Let's say there's someone out there listening right now. Their money situation is just chaos, right? If from their perspective. And maybe they are spending recklessly in their opinion. Where would you start with them, do you think? What would you say to them?
I would probably start with I might start with like looking at the what's so, right? Because that is so important. Like just taking stock. And like you said, Jacqueline, sometimes that just like takes a little bit of like having someone not hold your hand through it, but be there with you in that experience of it. Because sometimes people are just like have so much negative feeling around it and they've just been avoiding it for so long. So sometimes just having that other person there to help you with it and sort of give you that reinforcement that you're on the right path and that you're doing the right thing and that you can do this is so helpful for some people if they're really feeling like they've been avoiding it for a really long time. In terms of like the people who are spending like they feel recklessly, it's the same with bulimia. I would start to ask themselves, why? What is the feeling that you're trying to give yourself by spending? Mm-hmm. That is at the bottom of all the spending that we do. Yeah. All of the actions that we ever take in our lives, and spending or not spending is simply an action, right? Yeah. It's to have a feeling. It's to give ourselves some kind of feeling. So some people overspend because they want to feel belonging. Like mm-hmm. That's like the kind of the traditional, like keeping up with the Joneses kind of idea, right? But like a lot of times it's not like, oh, it's not as obvious as like, oh, that person bought like a nice car, so I want to like also have a nice car. A lot of times it's like, my friends are going on a trip and I want to be with them and not miss out and be able to go on trips with them as well, right? Yeah. So it's like, what is the feeling that you are wanting to give yourself with the money that you're spending? Sometimes it's belonging, sometimes it's love. You're like, you want to get like sort of approval from other people. Sometimes it's just joy.
Yeah, sometimes it's just fun, right? And you just want that dopamine hit. Like sometimes it's just enjoyable.
Exactly. Like you just want to create fun and joy in your life. So looking at the feelings that you're craving and going after, and I listened to one of your podcast episodes, Jacqueline, where you talked about this, and looking at different ways that you can get that feeling, that you can create that feeling. Because ultimately, what does create that feeling is your thoughts. And your thoughts can be created in any circumstance. So like if you have something that gives you that shot of whatever feeling you're looking for, of course it becomes like a reinforcement tool, right? And you keep wanting to do that. So you just want to find other ways of giving yourself that joy or that belonging or that love that maybe that are not dependent upon buying something or spending money in some way.
Yeah, no, I think what you said is very powerful about like spending is about trying to achieve some sort of feeling. And people don't think about that. It's just like, oh, it's a money transaction, but you're spending your money on things that are important to you for some reason. And generally it's to create some sort of result in your life. And I think maybe a good first step for people too, what you helped me with is kind of just like whatever your decision is, owning it. Like I remember one time we were talking about a vacation I wanted to go on, and you were like, well, are you okay going into debt for this vacation? And I said, yes. And at first I thought I was like, that's wrong. But I'm like, I'm okay with it though. And like, you can be okay with sometimes different financial decisions. They don't have to look the same as other people. But I think owning that, maybe I'll change my mind in the future. Maybe I won't be okay with that. But for now, it was like a good moment of, yeah, I'm all right with this feeling, and that's cool. As you know why you're doing it and you're okay with the decisions, they feel much more empowered than you feeling like you're completely out of control with money.
Yes, absolutely. Having that intentionality and that proactive look, that like this is a decision that you are making. And what I'm going to tell people is this too: no one can tell you what your rich life is. Only you know what your rich life is. And any kind of like rules out there need not apply to you. You are your own person. You are the boss of your life and the boss of your money. So no one can tell you like, you should buy a house. You should have like this much amount saved for like retirement. Like you get to make the rules of your own life, or like you should only spend 5% of your money on like vacation or whatever it is, right? Like you get to make up all the rules in your life. I think where people go wrong is when they do it unconsciously, and they just like, they are making decisions just like without actually intentionally making them. And then then they're like, oh shit, like look what I did. And they experience the regret. But if you actually have like the intentionality behind it, then you can have your own back in all the decisions that you make, and you get to make the rules for your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of correlating it back to bulimia, because there's a parallel here. Something I did with binging is I kind of took responsibility for it. I'm like, okay, like this decision that we're making, I stopped making it a big deal, even though binging was not the best for me health-wise. Long-term wasn't the best stress solution, but it did provide a benefit. And I just kind of like accepted the reality of what I was doing. I was like, this is my decision, but cool, we're doing this. And over time, it made me think about it a lot more rationally, made me realize I have power in what I'm doing. And over time led me to make different decisions. And the same as with money. While again, there are certain consequences, things like going to vacation in debt, things like that. But over time, I felt since then, like, right, but I have the power to make different decisions. And I have made different decisions since then. And so you think like I think a lot of people, not just in bulimia, we think if you make this decision, then we're going to completely fall off the window and we're going to be, I don't know, like we're going to be dead or something. I don't know. But actually you might start making different decisions if you just own up to what you're doing right now and be fully conscious of it.
Yes, that is so good. Yes, owning, like realizing that like things are not just happening to you. You have a choice in them, right? And you can decide. And when you look at your actions, you can see the decision that you have made and know that, like, yes, things are not just happening to you. All of your money results are results that you've created, right? They're not just happening to you. And when we get into that space, you become so much more powerful. That's so well said, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
There was something else. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no, I just wanted to clarify, like, because I know that people hear that and they'll think, like, well, what if a natural disaster happened? Like, yeah, no, you can't control that. And you can't control, like, the government tomorrow could say you get no money and it's all like whatever. And then, like, that decision's out of your control, but you still get to decide what you can do with the circumstances you have. And so I just wanted to clarify that, because I know someone, if you don't see the full thing, they're going to be like, wait. So, yeah.
Yes. No, I'm glad that you did clarify that. Like, there are so many things that happen that create results that are kind of out of our control, right? And like, it is what we're going to do in the face of that. So I don't mean to say like every single thing that's happening is like your fault. And it's not even like, I feel like fault is not a good place for anyone to go. Like, it's not like your fault that you like have credit card or something like that. It's just like a place to come from, a useful place to come from can be like taking responsibility for it. That's all.
100%. Yeah. It's like, you can't go back in time, and maybe you made those choices unconsciously. I would say with people with binging and with money, it can correlate too. It's not like you decided, oh, I want to be bulimic for 20 years, but in those moments, it really felt like the best option you had. And a lot of times money choices are like that too. And if someone had come and told you, hey, did you know you can make this, and this choice? And like, this could be another avenue, you probably would have taken that avenue, but you didn't have that going on in your mind at the time. So you didn't do it. It's not like you're to blame for it, but you do have responsibility for what you can do now.
Yes, an amazing thought for that. Like, that kind of like just encapsulates that. Is I did the best I could with the tools that I had, or I did the best I could with the knowledge that I had, because all our lives we're going to be learning more and more and more about money, right? If you're interested in stuff and you're interested in building wealth, you're always going to be learning new things about money, which might lead you to like regret something that you did in your 20s or like 10 years ago or whatever, right? Like, maybe now that you know this much about like health and bulimia and the negative impacts that it has on your life right now, maybe you would not make the same choice right now, but you did the best that you could with the tools that you had at the time. It's such 100%. A compassionate way of looking at your past and understanding yourself without any regret. Another thing that really I wanted to get in is that whoever's listening to this, I bet you anything that you're not doing as badly as you think you are. I feel like you are like, you're not like a mess. You're not like, your life isn't chaos or anything like that. Like, Jacqueline, I feel like we kind of worked through this a little bit together. Is like, it's so interesting because I find a lot of people like who are actually very good at something, they're the hardest on themselves about it. So like, you actually had like, you were very proficient with money and are proficient with money and very good at it. And yet you were so hard on yourself in terms of like how you managed it and things like that. Right. So I bet you for most people listening to this call, if I looked at your stuff, I would tell you that you're doing way better than you're giving yourself credit for.
Yeah. A lot of times people are, I don't know who they're comparing themselves to. They're comparing themselves to like the most perfect beings that don't ever exist, that they think what everyone's doing. And it's just not real. And you're actually doing pretty well. And a lot of it comes from like, again, that unrealistic perception of what you think you should be and unconscious beliefs. Like I thought, you know, like debt's bad, debt is shameful, poor self-control, that sort of stuff. And really, you know, I was managing bills month to month. I was doing what I was supposed to do, you know, and it just took a little bit more awareness and I don't want to say like action and looking at it to start changing things a bit more. But I'm glad that you brought that up. A lot of people think they're doing far worse than they're actually doing. And I see that in bulimia recovery a lot too. Yeah. they think that they're just like I also see people that like it's funny because like they'll struggle with bulimia, right? And they get better in recovery, but then they'll accidentally overeat on some chips and they're like, I'm back where I started, you know? And I think it's almost like as if we have trauma from our past behaviors. So we then are even harder on ourselves because we don't want to slip back to that thing. But normal people sometimes splurge a little bit when it's like they'll spend a little money they probably shouldn't have spent, or they overeat a little bit. And that's totally a common thing humans do.
Absolutely. Yes. There is no one managing their money down to the cent. Just
No,
like
right?
there's no one managing their food down to the calorie, right? Normal eaters have fluctuations. Normal human beings have fluctuations in their spending as well. Like there is no human out there who like has like a spreadsheet and they're like, I spend exactly $200 on food every week. And then I allocate $50 every month for like my dog's vet bill. Like, and managing all that like exactly to a T, that is just not how it goes, right? There's fluctuations all over the place.
Well, I used to, and this is a common mindset I'm sure you see, because Dave Ramsey, love him or hate him, like I think some of his advice is actually quite good, but then some of his advice that people will say like, oh, it's a little toxic, but like he's always like, every single dollar needs a name, like it has to go somewhere. And when I would hear that, then I was like, I would have an unexpected expense come up, of course. And then I'd be like, well, I don't know where this goes. And then I would just be like, fuck it. We're just not even going to budget for this month because it's already ruined. And then you just spend and do whatever. And it's like, no, you just need to understand that just like scheduling or anything, things fluctuate. Like you said, it's normal.
Totally. Yes. And like you kind of pointed to something that I think a lot of people have with money, and maybe they also have it with eating and bulimia, is that all or nothing thinking, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, if it got messed up yesterday, then just like, fuck it all. Like, it's all gone to pieces here. Right. And people definitely have that with money. They get on these like very, very rigid systems. And then when like one thing, like, I don't know, they didn't have the right row in their budget for this, like this thing, like you said, they forgot. It's just like, oh no, like it's not going to work again. And we need to just throw the whole thing out. Instead of like what I'm sure, like what you do a lot with your clients is just evaluating. And right. You said this before in one of your podcasts, just like looking at the behavior as a neutral thing and evaluating, okay, what were the things that maybe led to that? How was I feeling? What was I thinking? Right. And using it as data, like that's what all your spending can be. It can just be data. And getting really good with money is a journey. It's the same thing with like health and everything. Right? It's a journey. It doesn't happen in 1 week. You don't go from like zero to like being an accountant. It's a journey that happens over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said like it's all or nothing thinking, and it needs to be flexible. When things go awry, things deviate, then looking at it and understanding, well, why did it happen? What's going on? What can we do in the future? It's like anything, you know, if a meteor crashed into Earth tomorrow and you survived, you wouldn't be like, I didn't plan for the meteor. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? I'm such an idiot. You'd be like, we got to figure out what we need to do. The meteor's crashed in, half the Earth is gone. The Earth is like crumbling into space. What do we do? But you wouldn't be beating yourself up. And I think the same things you need to do when it comes to money, new money expenses or anything else. And we got to wrap things up. 2 things I wanted to ask you, actually multiple things, but one, your journey sounds very much so like you were good with money from the get-go. Was that true? Or you just liked money and you just were very interested in it, and then you learned how to get good at money over time?
I think it's actually the interest in it, maybe like, and this is a myth that I want to dispel, is that some people are like good with money, and what I want to tell everyone in the world is that money is a concept. Nobody is born good at it. It's just like nobody's born speaking English or Japanese. It's a language that you have to learn over time, right? You go to school to learn it, you practice it, you make a bunch of mistakes, people help correct you, blah, 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 right? Nobody's actually innately good at money or innately good at this stuff, right? It's like, it's learning it over time. So I think it was actually like maybe my interest in it that led me to like first of all, go to school in it. And I've read so many personal finance books, I can't even count, because I am interested in it. That doesn't mean that someone who wants to be good at money needs to do that at all. But just to tell everyone that like, this is something you can learn. You don't have to spend nearly as much time as I did learning it, because I'm really interested in this stuff. But like, it's not something you're good or bad at, it's just something you decide to learn or not.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because that's why I asked you the question, because I know some people are like, well, she's just good at it. And like you said, the money is a man-made construct that is not found in nature. It's not anything biological, evolutionary about it. It's just something that we use. So of course, you are not freaking born good at money. You may be born, I would say, with traits that could help you to manage money, but that's about it. And then you still have to learn how to apply those traits to managing money.
Totally. And there are parts about money that like my personality and the way my brain works doesn't even jive with at all. Like I am not detail oriented, and like I hate like just like I don't know, reviewing things and like getting things really, really perfect. So from that perspective, like I'm not even like good at that stuff. Like like when I have to look at my finances, I used to tell myself I'm gonna like look at it every single month, but I'm just like not the kind of person that like has like is really like stuck on routine and like has I don't know, does things like every single day or like the first of every month or anything. So I would leave it for like 2 or 3 months and then I'd be like, oh no, I like do it all. So like, I'm not even like a detail oriented person. You don't have to be you don't have to be anything in particular to be good at money. You're good at money when your money is doing what you want it to do in your life.
Yeah, perfectly well said. Like you're good at money when you are doing what you want to be doing with money. And that is totally relevant to you. Absolutely. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to ask you before, first of all, like where can people find you if they want to go work with you or find out more and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram. So you can find me at Coach Megan Tong. And yeah, I'd love for you to follow me there. My website is www.coachmegantong.com. So you can also find me there. And if you're interested in this stuff, interested in taking your money life to the next level, I'd love to hear from you and schedule a consult.
Yeah. And I will say that your consult alone was incredibly valuable. And that's what consults should be, right? They help provide clarity and making a decision. Very, very amazing. The last thing I wanted to ask you is like anyone out there, I know we've covered so much advice already, but anyone out there struggling with money, not knowing what to do, what would be like the first piece of advice you would give for them? And it's a hard question.
Yes, sorry. I'm like, oh, I have so many things to say. I think the first thing is trying on the thought that you're not doing as badly as you think that you are. Okay. Trying on that thought that like, you're going to be okay. The other thought, like, I'll take from Mary Forleo is that everything is figure outable and you can figure this out too. And something that has really helped with some of my clients is just bringing up money with somebody that you're close with. So many people shy away from having any kind of money conversations. And that just like, you know, breeds the shame and the negative feelings. And a lot of times, like when you share this stuff, first of all, you will get closer to whoever you decide to share it with, like your relationship will be stronger for it because it's something that's vulnerable, but also you will realize that like, we're all in this together. Like one of my clients, when she told her friends about like the debt that she had that arose from a divorce that she had, she found out that like 50% of her friends also had debt, right? And yeah, and she was thinking like she was like a horrible person who doesn't have her shit together and she's such a failure and everything like that. Meanwhile, it's just like everybody's privately thinking that, and sometimes just airing it out with someone that you're close with can help so much.
Brilliant advice. Yeah, especially with the sharing it with people. That is the main reason I came to work with you too. It's because I was just so constantly stressed about money. I didn't even know what I knew. I wanted to like make more money. I knew I should be handling money better, but I was just like constantly anxious about it. And I needed someone to talk to about it. And I didn't want to be like, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, but I needed someone with an outside perspective. And talking about it helped, because I would just shy away from it. I would pretend it wasn't there, and it made it 10 times worse. And so you're right, just talking about it with someone or a coach like you is extremely vital. And like you said, it brings people closer together and makes you realize you're not just the weird one, that a lot of people are struggling with it. Like if you're struggling with it, chances are tons of people are struggling with it.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that informative episode. I'm sure it helped a lot of people. I know that money, I was just talking with a client about these subjects the other day. So thank you so much for being on the show, Megan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
I don't know if this goes like screw up recording, but Jacqueline, I just want to acknowledge you for like getting what you needed. First of all, finding yourself a coach, and then getting what you came for in every single session, right? Like you just came,
thank you,
and like brought your stuff and was so willing to like implement and do things and challenge yourself, do scary things, try on new thoughts. So I like just watching you grow over the time that we were together was incredible. And yeah,
thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. All right, well, I feel it's weird when you receive like compliments. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do. But thank you. It was really, really fun to work with you as well. For everyone listening out there, thank you for listening and being there. Never give up on yourself, guys.